Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome into another edition of Tider Insider TV. As you just heard, we come to you each week courtesy of Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports, and glad to be partnering up with that incredible organization. Alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, I'm WVUA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris. Well, this past Saturday over in Oxford, Mississippi, Rodney, Alabama got back on track. Now, this game wasn't unlike several games for Alabama this year. Really, it was the fifth one that came right down to the wire. But this time, unlike Tennessee and LSU, Alabama got the win, 30-24 over the Rebels. And this one was, here's the play, less than a minute to go. And Ole Miss on fourth down goes for the touchdown. Excellent coverage. And I'm not going to lie to you, Rod. I held my breath for about 10 seconds, making sure there wasn't a yellow flag that came flying out of nowhere. Yeah. But it was a great, great defensive job by Alabama in the secondary. Alabama, as we look at some of the highlights here, really in the second half, they outplayed Ole Miss. They were down 17-7. They rallied to make it 17-14. The only touchdown for Ole Miss in the second half came after a Dallas Turner face mask on 3rd and 18. Gave Ole Miss a first down, and they scored. But, Rodney, I was real impressed with how Alabama, after getting down early, and, I mean, that first quarter, you're thinking, oh, my gosh, this is not looking good, really showed some resolve, some determination, and in the second half, I thought played its best half of football in quite some time.
The lack of energy initially, Gary, I thought they started the game really poorly. Obviously, I thought Ole Miss jumping out to that 17-7 lead. To come back the way they did, extremely impressive. I thought the offensive line overall in the second half performed much better. The run game was much better. Jace McClellan was very impressive. And how about Byron Young on that defensive line?
Beast.
Had a really big game. So, yeah, I thought all around it was, that second half performance was one of the better outings here in a while.
Young, 11 tackles, 2.5 sacks, a forced fumble. The Laurel, Mississippi native went home with bad intentions, and he is the SEC Defensive Player of the Week. You mentioned Jace McClellan. CBS didn't say much about it on the telecast, but Gibbs, it looked like, might have tweaked his ankle a little bit. Jamar Gibbs didn't play a lot. The thing that Jace did, he picked up 82 yards after halftime along with the other running backs, 108 total yards rushing in the game. But, he gave him something that Alabama had lately, and that was he ran between the tackles, and he ran hard with power.
Yeah, he had that physical run where he carried the stack, 12-yard run. I thought that was a really big play. And, again, if you can run the football like that, certainly it allows you better opportunities in the passing game. I'll tell you another guy that really stood up was number 19, Kendrick Law, the true freshman. Had been injured a little bit with that hamstring pull. We've talked about him quite a bit here, Gary. We thought maybe he might be a factor at some point. It's really good to see him get going.
And Will Reichert is the SEC Special Teams Player of the Week. 2 huge field goals in the fourth quarter. Reichert has been so awesome during his career. I mean, the only really bad spot on his resume during his career was the miss at Tennessee late there that would have given Alabama the victory. But the Tide gets it done, and the defense, Rodney, 7 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 3 quarterback hurries. McClellan, as we mentioned, 82 yards rushing in the second half for Alabama. He had 67 of those. And you saw something at the end of this game. For people, and I talked about this as we're going to watch some of the defense here, Rodney, on my radio show. I get so tired of people saying, well, they don't have anything to play for, nothing to play for. Where does that come from? That's ridiculous. Every time you play a game, you got a chance to win. Nick Saban's reaction at the end of that game showed you how happy he was and how happy this team was to get that victory, regardless of what's at stake after the season.
Yeah, I think fans, Gary, if you're not playing for a championship, obviously that's what it kind of has become here. But you're right. I mean, they have a ton to play for. I mean, not only for this season, I think there's a lot of players. As you start to look forward to the future, I thought this win here against Ole Miss was one of the bigger wins Alabama's had. In fact, you know what, Gary? I'm not sure it wasn't the biggest win they've had this year and would rank right up there with Auburn last year in winning the SEC championship game. This certainly would be in the top 3.
You and I get to cover college football, so we see the dedication that it takes. And the reason I'm not getting on fans for saying that, but when you work as hard as these guys do in the offseason in the weight room, practicing in August when it's 100 degrees, the game, that's the payoff, man. I don't care if you're playing Austin Peay or playing Georgia for the national championship. When you get to play a game in front of, thousands of fans, you should be excited, regardless of what's at stake. So I just kind of wanted to say that, Rod, because it's become a popular theme this season, whether it's sportscasters like us or fans or former players. Alabama's doesn't have anything to play for anymore. That's ridiculous to me.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think when you win at the level Alabama's won, which nobody's ever done that, you kind of get judged by that standard. And if you don't quite play up to that, I think sometimes as you said, the scrutiny, the critiques are a little bit unfair.
Well, let me tell you what that win meant on Saturday. First of all, it kept Alabama from having a third loss. It keeps Lane Kiffin winless against Nick Saban, and it kept the team having to get off the field again with fans rushing the field.
Let me tell you another thing it does. It does a lot for recruiting. Because let me tell you, you got Georgia, you got Texas A&M, you got Tennessee, you got all these people saying Nick Saban's done, and now you win this game. If he'd lost that game, the Sharks are in the water. They already are. Yeah,
negative recruiting. I know this is a shocker. Does exist. Speaking of Coach Saban, it's now time for Coach Talk. The Crimson Tide head coach now talking about the improvements that he still wants to see from this football team down the stretch.
I think the focus needs to be on our team, what our team needs to do to each individual on our team and each unit on our team. What do we need to do to improve? What do we need to do to try to do a better job with consistency and execution in terms of what we do as coaches, as well as how we get the players to stay focused so that we can execute with more consistency.
Well, Rodney, Saturday will be a challenge as far as consistency and performance and staying motivated. Let's just tell it like it is. I mean, Alabama's playing an outmanned opponent. Austin Peay in the Atlantic Sun Conference, that's FCS, or old Division I AA. They're not a bad team. They're 7-3 at their level. They've played 3 teams from the state of Alabama this year. They beat Alabama A&M and North Alabama in the state of Alabama, so they're 2-0. This will be the 3rd time they've played in the state. Now, they did lose at home to Jacksonville State. And this note too, Rod, for folks that want to watch the game, this game is not on over-the-air television. I've had several calls about that this week. A couple people wanting to argue with me. ESPN Plus and SEC Network Plus are streaming networks on your wireless device, your phone, your computer. You have to have a membership. You will not be able to dial up your DirecTV or your cable or your dish or whatever it is and watch this game. So make a note of that. It's an 11 a.m. kickoff. But Rodney, a little bit about Austin Peay. As I said, kind of an unusual team. Scotty Walden, their head coach, is just 30 years old. He was an assistant at Southern Miss, but he has done a good job there. For their level, they're not bad, but I mean, it is what it is. I can't sit up here and sugarcoat it. I mean, this should be a rout.
Yeah. Well, I think the key is, and just like last week, a lot of people saying Alabama, where's their mindset going to be coming off that LSU loss with, quote unquote, nothing to play for. I think it's the same thing this week. I think when you play a team like this, again, what is the mindset going to be? I think that's the big challenge. And, for this team, for this Alabama team, that's very important. So I think, again, you want to try to develop that, Gary, especially with the younger players, because, as you start to move forward, this is important. It's important to have the right mindset, and that's why I think this game right here, that's the key I want to watch.
Yeah, and get your starters in, get a big lead, get them out, let some young guys play if possible, and get ready for the Iron Bowl, and hopefully no injuries. I mean, this game can help you get better, and that's why Nick Saban talks about playing to a standard, because you don't want to worry about who's on the other sideline. You just want to go out and play the best that you can to be the best player that you can be. Still to come, we'll have our predictions on this game at the end of the show. Also, both Alabama men's and women's basketball teams are off to fast starts, and Crimson Tide Soccer advanced to the 2nd round of the NCAA tournament. We'll have the latest on the Tide as they look for a national championship. And also, we'll be getting into your phone calls, your emails, and your tweets. As always, the phone number 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. You can go ahead and call us now to get through and get on hold, or you can email us at the address there, TITV@WVUA23.com, or you can tweet at us. Use that hashtag TITV. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. The one, the only, Tider Insider TV will return right after this.
I would hope that we'd have quite a few Alabama fans down there in South. I mean, that's part of the reason we agreed to do the 2-for-1 is to get kind of all the Alabama fans down in Mobile area a chance to watch us play.
Nate Oates wants to see the Tide faithful tonight down in the Port City. Welcome back to TITV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. From Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Alabama basketball is in Mobile tonight. Odd tip-off time, 9 p.m. on ESPNU at that beautiful Mitchell Center. That's a great place to watch a basketball game. I can tell you that. I've been there. Alabama's off to a fast start this season after dominating victories over Longwood and Liberty, both of whom are pretty good teams. Longwood made the NCAA tournament last year. Alabama only shot 3 of 28 in that game from the three-point range and still won by 21 points, had 67 rebounds. Then against Liberty on Friday night, they shot much better, nearly 50% from three. They still got 40-plus rebounds. Rodney, they're long. They're athletic. They've got some depth. I mean, this is a team that can attack the backboard, so even when the threes aren't going down, they generate other ways to score. This will not be an easy game tonight, though. USA's got a good team. Alabama's up to number 18 in the AP poll. And, Rod, when you look at this team last year, Alabama did make it to the NCAA tournament, and that was an accomplishment, to go back-to-back. Hadn't been done in a while. But that team probably did not live up to the expectations that had been set for it. They got knocked out in their first NCAA tournament game. A lot of changes on the roster. I think there's a lot of changes in the way they're going to play. Nate Oates has said, you're going to play defense this year, or you're not going to play. And I see that, all these newcomers blending in with a few returning players, and Quinterly's going to be back. Dom Welch, a transfer, hasn't played a lot because of an injury. Noah Gurley's been slowed, but these freshmen led by Brandon Miller and these transfers like Mark Sears, but this is an exciting team.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people that were very critical last year, Gary, have been very impressed with the way Alabama's played in the first couple of games. So I know there's a lot of excitement. Looking forward to tonight's game, seeing how they play in Mobile.
And then next week, Alabama plays in the prestigious Phil Knight Invitational, the Nike tournament with Michigan State, Connecticut, and Oregon. So that's really something to look forward to. But I tell you what, we'll see what happens tonight down in Mobile. But I really like this Alabama men's basketball team. And the Alabama women, likewise, off to a good start. They're at 2-0. They already had a big road win at Tulane last week, 72-61. Crimson Tide used an 18-5 run in the second quarter to really put this game away. They were always in control. Not an easy place to play down there in New Orleans. Tulane is good. Brittany Davis scored 24 against Tulane after scoring 26 in the season-opening win over Alabama A&M. Alabama is at South Florida tomorrow night. They'll play down there in Tampa against USF. Tip-off is scheduled for 6 p.m., and that game will be on ESPN Plus 2. And Alabama soccer scores a season-high 9 goals against Jackson State in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Last Friday night, Alabama set a single-season record for total goals with 68. It's one of the reasons they're one of the best teams in the country. They'll host number 8 Portland at the Alabama Soccer Stadium on Friday at 6 p.m. This is going to be a much tougher game now. If Bama wins that game, they'll have to turn around quickly, and just 2 off days before they would play the winner of Brown and UC Irvine on Sunday. So it's about to get tougher, but I tell you what, I really like this Alabama soccer team, and maybe they can take it all. I mean, I think they're good enough. We'll find out. Well, coming up on Tider Insider TV, Alabama volleyball sweeps an SEC opponent. That's good news. And up next, phone lines, I'm told, are wide open. So you can call and get through right now, 205-348-WVUA. Again, that's 348-9882. You can email us at the address on your screen. Let us hear from you, Tider Insider Nation. We'd love to interact, as we always do here on the show. And we'll be right back. More TITV after this commercial message. Alabama volleyball lost to South Carolina on Friday at Foster Auditorium, but on Saturday, man, the Tide came back with a vengeance. They swept the Gamecocks in 3 sets. Emily Janik was a star. She had the team high 35 assists, setting it up for other people. Kendall Rayo was positive as well with 11 kills, and that gives Crimson Tide their 3rd SEC win of the season. And welcome back to Tider Insider TV with Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris. Let's head out on the phone lines. First up tonight is Bill over in Buell. Hey, Bill.
Hey, appreciate you taking my call. 2 questions. One, second half, Gibbs didn't play. He was on the sideline with his gear on and everything, but he didn't play. And others, why has Harrell not come through as sort of like a Jameson Williams as a deep threat, since he's supposed to have a lot of speed?
Okay, Bill, thanks for the question. Rodney, as we mentioned earlier, start with Gibbs. He kind of tweaked an ankle in that game. Doesn't appear to be too serious, but they didn't want to put him back out there. And obviously, as we said, Jace McClellan was running real well. Yeah,
Jace ran really well. And like you said, Coach Saban said afterwards that, that ankle tweak, they wanted to hold him out. And then, of course, who was the other one?
All right, Tyler Harrell.
Yeah.
I want to know why Tyler Harrell played more, comparing him to Jameson Williams. First of all, Jameson Williams is a special football player. That's why he was the #1 draft pick, even with an ACL tear, and still hasn't played for the Lions, but they were willing to wait on him. I think it's an unfair comparison, Bill, and I'm not getting on you. I'm just saying can't expect everybody to be Jameson Williams. I do think this. I think Tyler Harrell is still going to help this football team, probably more so next year, but injuries have just really limited his development.
Yeah, he injured a foot, early on, and so I think that really kind of hampered his development. And don't forget this now, he didn't go through spring practice,
right.
so he wasn't really acclimated to the Alabama system. He got here, was injured, trying to learn all of those things. But you're right, he does have legit speed. I mean, he's been timed legitimately at 4.24 in the 40. So hopefully, maybe not this year, as Gary said, but next year you could see him make a difference.
And maybe we'll see on Saturday.
You might.
If he's healthy. All right, let's get to Hubbardville with our good friend Caleb. Hey, Caleb, what's going on, man?
Hey, not much, guys. Hey, I was wondering if Eli Ricks and Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be fine and what bowl game Alabama possibly could go to. Thanks, guys.
All right, sure thing, Caleb. We just talked about Gibbs. I think he's going to be back. And Ricks, went down early in that game, hit his head. What are you hearing on him?
I have not heard anything in terms of an update. Maybe tomorrow, Wednesday, Coach Saban talks, so maybe we'll get an update tomorrow on Eli Ricks. As far as the bowl games, I mean, right now you got to win these two in front of you. So that could certainly determine where you go. You're hearing a lot of speculation maybe about the Orange Bowl, Gary, possibly Clemson, possibly North Carolina. Again, that's just speculation.
Yeah, you win these next two games, you're more than likely going to New Year's Day 6 Bowl. And like Rodney said, a lot of chatter about Clemson in the Orange Bowl. That would be one of those New Year's 6 Day Bowls games I think would have a lot of interest around the country, Rod. All right, let's go to Clay County and talk with Luke. Hey, Luke, how are you?
Doing good, guys. How are y'all?
Doing well, thank you.
Hey, I got a quick question about recruiting. Three players in particular that I'd really like to ask about is Keon Keeley, the big defensive end out of Florida, and the two guys, James Smith and Kawavius Russell out of Montgomery Carver. What are you hearing on where Alabama stands in getting either three of those?
All right, Luke, and those are three highly touted prospects that a lot of people are after. Rodney, any updates?
Well, I think, Keeley visited here, obviously, for the Texas A&M game. It's gone really quiet on him. He hasn't talked much since that visit. The feel heading into that weekend was that Alabama was the leader. But, again, we'll have to see. Ohio State's been in there. Others, Florida's certainly been in the mix. As far as the two in Montgomery, two outstanding players, both 5-star rated players. We're going to have to see because I think that one's a little bit unpredictable. If you ask me right now, I'd say Alabama probably has a little bit of an edge. But, look, I'm telling you, when Auburn gets their new coach, they could be a serious factor. Georgia's in there very strong. Florida's recruited them extremely well. So we'll see. But maybe right now I'd give Alabama the slight edge.
All right, thanks for the phone calls. We're not done yet. Still to come on TITV, Alabama Baseball gets a left-handed pitcher from right here in Tuscaloosa. And as I mentioned, more of your phone calls, emails, and tweets. The phone number is always 205-348-9882. Go ahead and give us a ring, Tider Insider Nation. We want to hear from you when we return to TITV.
I mean, it's a winning culture. I mean, basketball team's good, football team's good, baseball team's good, soccer team's good. I mean, you can't go wrong with Alabama. It's probably the best college in the country.
On Monday, former Northridge Jaguar and current Shelton State Buccaneer left-handed pitcher Tate Robertson made it official as he signed with the Crimson Tide. And, man, I tell you what, this kid can move the ball around. He had a 7-3 record last year, an ERA under 3. I think he had as many strikeouts as he had innings pitched, and he's still got another year of junior college baseball, so he'll be a good one for the Crimson Tide. And welcome back into TITV with Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris. Let's get to an email. And this is our email question of the day, brought to you by KDM Service Corporation, serving your family like our family. All right, here it is. Do you think that we will go after a portal quarterback for next season? That's from David in Tuscaloosa. Rodney, it's a good question, and never say never when it comes to quarterbacks or really any position in the portal.
Well, if you listen to the internet, Gary, Drake May could become available. I mean, I certainly would have a difficult time turning him down at North Carolina, but I really don't know that answer. Again, I think it just depends on, how does the Alabama coaches feel about the progress of, Ty Simpson, Jalen Milroe. Those two guys certainly going to compete. Then you have two true freshmen coming in, Eli Holstein, Dylan Lonergan. Again, how do you feel about that position? And then also you have to, like I said, who comes in the portal? Who's available? If you don't have a top guy, if you don't have a guy that is better than the ones you have, you probably won't.
All right, let's get back to the phone calls. And Bob is down in Daphne. Hey, Bob, glad you're with us tonight.
Thank you. It's funny. I was just going to ask you the same thing about the quarterbacks next year. What are you hearing about Ty Simpson? He was supposed to have an extremely accurate arm, and he's supposed to be pretty fast. What's the buzz? Can you help me at that?
Yeah, we can, Bob. I think Ty Simpson is an outstanding prospect. I'm going to let Rodney tell you more in just a moment, but we've got to ask a lot about him because the way we view college football is so different than the way we used to view it. He's a true freshman. I mean, he's right out of high school, but I don't think anything's changed as far as the way Alabama feels about Ty Simpson. Do you, Rod?
No, I don't. I think, again, when you looked at him last year coming out of high school out of Martin, Tennessee, he's a guy that's, really talented. He's athletic. He can move around. He can throw from, kind of a little bit like Bryce Young. He could throw on the run really well, throw from different arm angles, got a really strong arm. He's a smart kid. He's a coach's son. I think that's always important. So, yeah, I think Ty Simpson has a really, really bright future.
All right. Thanks for the phone calls and the emails. Tider Insider TV will return right here to our studios inside Bryant-Denny Stadium, the Digital Media Center, right after this. Former Alabama and NFL quarterback A.J. McCarron has not played in the NFL this year, but he may not be done. The XFL is coming back again, and they went ahead and announced their quarterbacks ahead of their regular draft, and the St. Louis Battlehawks want A.J. to be their quarterback. We'll see if he plays in the XFL or not. Played 7-8 years in the NFL, mainly as a backup, but tore his knee up in Atlanta last year before the Falcon season began. And then this year, as I said, he has sat out. But maybe he'll be back in the XFL. All right, Rodney, it's prediction time. Alabama and Austin Peay. You lead us off.
Well, look, I'm just looking at this game. Like I said earlier, the mindset. I want to see Alabama go out there. It's really not about the opponent. How do they approach this game? Because I think the mindset has been a big issue on this team. Gary, this shouldn't be an issue on Saturday, 59-0.
Well, you did me 1 point better, Rod. This is crazy. This is no disrespect to Austin Peay. I'll be disappointed, though, if Alabama gives up a point in this game. I mean, this is a mismatch. And Alabama's ready to go. That doesn't mean that the Governors can't score late, but I'm with Rodney. I've got it remarkably close. I've got it 58-0. So, I think this game will be over at halftime. If it's not over at halftime, that's not a good sign.
Don't forget Citadel a few years ago.
That's right. All right, that's going to do it for TITV. We'll have a replay tonight at 10:30. You can find it anytime at WVUA23.com. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching. Good night, everybody.